was incredibly liberating. I came to probably the truest perspective, or the most honest perspective, about the entire tournament, about who I was as a fighter, and I was freed. I believe that your greatest power is found in authenticity, and I found that right before the finals match.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It is your friendly neighborhood BJJ podcaster, Rafa Esparza, coming to you with another great installment of the Grappling Hour. This is an incredible interview. I think that you guys are going to truly love this one. I didn't know a lot about Amy aside from her work, the times that I have seen her compete, but getting to know her here is a very cool thing because I couldn't tell so much of what was going on in her head, and she is so kind in giving us the explanations behind her techniques, as well as the mental strength that she had going through this tournament. It is epic, and I mean it is super epic. But speaking of super epic, before we get going, I wanted to tell you guys, going forward here at the Grappling Hour, we are going to adapt into a subscriber model. Uh-oh, I know, I can hear it already in your head. Oh no, I hate that sort of stuff. Hey, here's the good news. There's always going to be a free component for those of you who truly love and support us. I don't turn my back on the people who have been supporting us. Here's how it works. What we are going to do for our subscribers is, in addition to creating some exclusive content for our upper tier members, we are also going to create early access. So that means if you want to see these interviews right away, we're going to ask that you just pay a small amount per month. And that not only helps me, but it helps the many people who are always kind to give me a little bit of their time. It always helps me to, do this for a living, because I do other stuff outside of it, but this is where my heart and soul is. So I really hope that if you guys like these kinds of interviews and you like seeing hour-long breakdowns of getting to know the athletes and the journeys that they take, and I hope you have, because we've given a whole bunch to you this past week and a half, it's my hope that you'll go to the link below in the description. You'll sign up to be one of the first people to be given the information, and then you can make your decision from there. And we would love to have you here because we have a lot of fun things that are in the future here on the show. So anyway, back to Amy. She's awesome. I hope you liked this interview. I sure as hell did, because she's definitely going to be something. So enjoy this and then get ready to see her kill it at ADCC this fall. All right, ladies and gents, I am excited to have you joining us on another installment of the Grappling Hour. My name is Rafa Esparza, your friendly neighborhood BJJ podcaster. It is a wonderful day for grappling. And I want to tell you this. When you're watching ADCC and you are absorbing so many different matches, things are just flying by you. And our guest today, she won her division, and it was really something fun to watch throughout. And one of the things that I get excited about for ADCC is obviously we have friends of the show, Keith, Will, Brianna, a lot of the people that we have known for years. What's always cool is those X factors, the people that you may see, people that you may know their competition regimen, or you may be familiar with their work, but you get to meet them once they get the big win. And here we have a competitor who's been consistent, who has been exciting to watch, but man, did they come alive on that ADCC Trials weekend. I'm excited to get to know her, and I don't want to waste any more time. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show for the very first time, Amy Campo. Amy, how are you doing? I'm so sorry, you were just muted there. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on the show. Yeah, it's an honor. It's a pleasure to be able to talk to you guys today.
Well, it's wonderful to have you here because I was telling you this off air, but it really does ring true. you guys put in a lot of work to win these things. So I think it's important to document the process, and I think it's important to give you your due props. Did the possibility of ADCC like make you nervous? Was it something that you've always wanted to do? And how long has this been a goal to kind of climb this particular mountain?
Um, so your first question, was I nervous? I think originally yes, just because it is a big deal. It was a hyped tournament, and the division was stacked. And there's just a lot of preparation that goes into it. Honestly, the battle is really fought before the fight even happens. All the time you spend training, suffering, and on the day to day is honestly where the real fight happens and where the real struggle is. And by the time it gets to the fight, you're in maintenance at that point. So most of the fight is done before the fight, and yeah, I'd say that's the hardest part for sure. As far as how long has this been a goal, I think this has been a goal for my coach longer than it's been a goal for me.
Mhm.
When I started competing, it was just like one competition at a time and just wanted to see what I can do. And, after your first one, you're like, this is fun. Let's do this again. So I think very early on, my coach had it as a plan for me to see if we could go to ADCC. And I was just kind of like, oh, cool. Like, what's that? And they had to tell me about it at first. And then we just kind of took gradual steps towards competing and traveling for competitions and just slowly climbing up in experience.
What do you attribute to helping you get over that like initial, I don't know, ADCC seems so big, and then it becomes something that you go, no, it's manageable. I can do this. It's within my power to do this.
Oh, yeah, it's totally perspective. It's totally focus and perspective. The more you're able to focus and be in control of your mind, the more you come to a truer perspective of what each tournament is, what it means, and what you are capable of. And it becomes so much more manageable that way because it doesn't seem like this big, daunting thing that you have no idea how it's going to go, what it's going to be, that you're overwhelmed with this idea that it's going to be a lot more or a lot harder than it needs to be. And that's just the plight of overthinking things. So when you focus and you bring yourself back to the realist perspective about what you're doing and that you want to do it, it's really much more manageable.
You know what's nice here is I love the transition from someone seeing it for you before you see it, and then you going, oh, if they see it for me and they kind of understand what it takes, it is within my power. So did that belief, when did that ever like occur to you, or when did it occur to you that you knew that you had a good amount of support in your system as a jiu-jitsu practitioner?
Um, so I think there's been a couple bigger tournaments in the past that I was like intimidated by the name of the tournament. Like my first going to IBJJF Pan Am's the first time, like I was like, oh, this is a big tournament. And then a couple subsequent ones that were like, hyped because they're a big deal. I think being able to perform in those and do well and realize I was capable of performing well and that the competition, yeah, it might have been a little harder, but it was like, as soon as you get on the mat and you shake hands, it's all the same. Somebody might be harder to fight, but it's all the same once you shake hands and once the match starts. So I think once, yeah, my coach saw that I could do these tournaments and do well, and I didn't see that at first. And then once I started seeing that I could do well in previous tournaments, I was like, wow, there's some truth behind what you're saying, and I gotta believe you as much as you believe in me, and then we can both do the best we can with this. Yeah.
That's cool. And again, everybody has a different journey toward this. Some people see ADCC that I've interviewed and they go, I'm going to do that. I'm going to be there. For you, it was a different journey of I was just doing jiu-jitsu. I was just doing what seemed like I'm supposed to do. And then along the way, this beautiful journey kind of took away in a path there. And I love you saying that you were competing at other tournaments and you learned how to live in the hype, because it's very easy to get lost in that. So that becomes part of the mentality game. So that's a big, big credit to you. What does the transition week look like for you for ADCC? So what is that like going into it that week of tournament look like for you?
Okay, so the week of is a constant focus. There's not a minute where you do not tune everything you are doing to be in your most prepared and most disciplined state. And that means all of your good habits that you keep for normal training, you keep, and then you don't stray from them at all. Not on the weekend, not at night, not ever. And you always keep this focus where because you can get in your head before the fight even happens. So the mental focus required to keep yourself on track and not let any garbage in your mind is very real. And that's like, sometimes that can be a minute to minute thing. If you have time to yourself to just think about the tournament and let yourself get worried about it, you can be fighting those thoughts minute to minute. Or if you're on top of it, you can be coasting with this good perspective and relying on that throughout the week. So as the week progresses, the focus just gets more and more intense and more constantly aware of, maintaining that. And it gets even more intense right up to the day of, and even sleeping. Even sleeping, you're like, I know for me, even when I sleep, I don't allow myself to get so lazy that I want to sleep more than I want to get out of bed. I have to be prepared to fight as soon as I wake up in order to have the focus needed to make it to the tournament and not be like, no, let's go back to sleep. I'm nervous. No, it can't exist. It can't exist. You get to the tournament and the pressure builds and builds and you just keep it at bay. You know why you're here. You know what we're doing here. You're just doing what you know how to do. So you get to the tournament, prepare for your first match, and then you do your first match and it's like, okay, I'm warmed up. I'm alive. I'm in this. I know what I'm doing here. My body's ready to go. All right, where's the next one? And then you wait 4 hours for your next one, and you're like, great, I'm cold again.
It is the hurry up and wait game. It is one of the things I hate for competitors. I totally understand it. I sympathize with that. What I would say to you, though, is I love that you have turned this perspective of, no, I'm ready to fight the minute I get up. The minute I get up, we're there. We're off to the races. Because of this reason, is that most people don't want to get up in the morning. Like it's hard. Sometimes you want those extra minutes of sleep. But you're telling me that you're like, nah, the minute you get up, that's when you got to get ready to go to work. So that's a large mentality shift to make in order to be this consistent. I would love to ask, when does the ADCC camp begin for you? I know I asked week of, but like how long of a process is this something that you're doing? Because it would seem like a long process to be this mentally strong for. So I'd love to know when the ADCC camp kind of existed or started for you.
So, like, as far as when I started being so strictly focused, or...
Yeah, it's a little bit of like, what would you consider ADCC camp? And I would imagine that's really when you start to get a little more strict on the way that you're approaching your camp. So when would you consider the beginning of your ADCC camp, if there was one?
So the beginning of it is probably a couple months out from it. And as every couple weeks passes, training intensifies more and more. Actually, to me, it feels like training is just always, if I had it my way, training would just stay intense all the time. And then you just increase in focus closer to the tournament. Because I just like hard training anyways. Like, I'm more motivated by hard training than I am motivated to, I have to win a tournament, so I need to train. No, training hard is just what is satisfying to me. So if it stayed that way, I'd be fine. But it seemed like something like 8 weeks out, probably more than that, we had already started like preparing for things. And as we got closer, we would be more specific, or we'd start training harder. And it just kind of progressed in intensity, just like any other tournament would, until like 3 weeks when you're going the hardest you can. And your focus and your discipline outside of training needs to come to a T.
Okay. There's also one clarifying question I had in terms of, you mentioned how you get very focused and how it's almost like a minute by minute sort of mental, keep yourself aligned, keep yourself there. What I'd love to know is, does that exist when you are on the mats? Or is that something that just happens more so off the mats? Because For me personally, when I go train, my brain goes somewhere else. But I'm not
Hmm.
training for ADCC. For you, are you able to say like, oh, that part, my brain is perfectly in tune because I know the goal, I'm competing or I'm training with that in mind? And then is it something else when you get off the mats that you do, or is it the same?
Um, I don't know if I would call it the same kind of focus. You are focused, but it's a jujitsu zone. You're in a zone where your body is a lot more reactive than you are thinking. And I think if you need to strategize in the match, then yeah, there is more thinking involved in it. Most of the matches I go through, they are just me fighting. Not a lot of them do I focus a lot on strategizing or I need to make some sort of specific move. But the higher up in level I go, the more that is something I have to consider because it gets to the point where one mistake is what costs the match when you get higher up in these divisions. So the higher up I've been going, and I noticed it more with this one, is that I just had to be tactful and precise with what I was doing. Not that I wasn't before, but you got to be smart about when you go for things and about how long you stay in one spot and how you go about doing things because it can just change so quick. And sometimes the rounds are short and it's not hard to get 1 point behind, 2 points behind, and have the rest of the match lag out and lose that way. I've had that happen to me before, and I was like, oh, I felt like I was really fighting the whole time. But that is a tactic that is used nowadays to score points right before the other person has a chance to score them back. Because it's not like either side couldn't score on each other, but it's when you score and how much time the other person has to score back. That's been the tactic in winning a lot of fights.
Understood. Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, because I literally my brain goes somewhere else when I go to train. Where no matter what kind of stress or whatever kind of crazy day I have, I literally get done training and I go, oh right, everything that happened out of this, so the stress or anything I was thinking about, it goes there. So that much is
I
very cool
think
here.
I think there is a really neat ability for you to create when you can focus inside your match in that way. When you're, I would call it when you're really aware of each thing that's happening in your match. Then you have a fun ability to start creating new things with jujitsu. You can feel how they're moving, and you can improvise, and you don't have to go exactly with one technique of one path of one takedown, one something. You can feel the position and feel base off here, bounce off here. I can kind of jimmy two things I know together and make something else that's going to work for my situation, which is really fun.
See, this is cool. I like hearing this. You're almost comparing it to playing jazz, improvisational kind of moments where you can do that. That's where the art gets its name from, you know. So I think that's really cool to hear how you do all this preparation work so that you can get to the fun of competing, and that's interesting. I like hearing that. Tell me a little bit
Yeah.
about your process in your first match because we're gonna go match by match. I have the results here again on Flow Arena, so I'm happy to jog the memory. But I always find it very fascinating to get some inside perspective. So, do you remember your first match and how that went down?
My first match on day one, yes, I remember. Dude, day one, I just felt it. This tournament was just me. I felt alive. I felt absolutely willing, 100% athletic. I was like, there is nothing that is going to stop me in this match. I had every single thing in line for that day. So I walked into this match and I was just like, I am so doing this. And I took her down. I did a lot of head control, like I'd worked on with my coach a couple days before training. So I was like, wow, this is a couple days before the tournament. I'm using this. I took her down. I believe I passed her guard. I was in side control. Um, and I believe I mounted and I armbarred her. And it just went super quick. I was just ready to go. And I just went.
So let's understand this. I'm happy you felt that way. Why did you feel that way? Because obviously people need to get into a zone when they compete or they have their different ways or spaces. But you are telling me with maybe I'm wrong here, but almost some surprise to yourself that you're just like, no, I was feeling it. How? What made that happen?
I think the timing of my training in preparation for the tournament, like when my muscle had recovered to like an optimal point, I think that was a factor in it. So I just felt like my body was at its best, most recovered state, but still like strong. And then I think I had stayed so focused. You know how I talked about even sleep cannot be a deterrence to focusing on the match. That's how I woke up. I was like, I I never went to bed without being ready to get on the mat and compete. And so I think I was that focused during the day. I was at the tournament for a couple hours and I got my mentality straight. I was already feeling good, already knew what I was there to do, and I was just completely ready by the time I got out to that match.
See, because I could tell you were feeling it later in the tournament. And that was something that sometimes you observe as a watcher of these, where I go, oh man, she is excited. This is great. You love to see competitors with that passion. But I didn't know from the get-go you were like, yeah, it all was magic. How would you compare that to maybe other tournaments that you've been in? Was it better, different, similar to how you've been in a different space? Because just from the way it sounds here, it sounds like it's one of those kind of like all comes together kind of moments that you're happy happens.
In other tournaments, most of my early tournaments, I didn't care if I won or lose, if I were to win or to lose. I just cared that I was going to go out there and perform, and whatever happens, happens. And some of my later tournaments, I did pay a bit more attention to how I felt before, during, and after. And I can say there's only been one or two tournaments. I think it was an American Nationals or a Pan Am's a year or two ago. Um, yes, where I reached that same point where I just felt indestructible, completely willing. But I didn't reach that point until a couple fights in, until I'd made it past one of my finals and was going to the open weight. Once I got to the open weight, I totally just, I mean, I had to keep focused, of course, but I totally was just, my head was in the game and I wasn't going to let a single thing stop me, and I was completely willing to try anything. I only
That's
talking about one other tournament. At the beginning of the tournament, was this was an experience because I felt that at the beginning of the tournament where I was like, I'm ready to go with anyone now. That's crazy.
Hey, listen, that's awesome. I think everybody's kind of had one of those moments, even if you don't compete at an ADCC or you don't necessarily compete in jiu-jitsu. If you've been an athlete, you know those moments where you feel it and you know that you're kind of in a place. You're in that moment where you're at peak performance. So that is cool to hear. I'd love to go ahead and start going to your second match, because second match happens. You mentioned that there was a little bit of a wait. Was there a long wait between the first and the second match at ADCC that weekend?
So the first match was on day one. I actually had a bye, then I had my first match on day one. And then that was it for the day. And I was like, well, shoot, can I do at least one more and then have just three for tomorrow? But that's just how it worked out, because we were on the round of 16.
That's cool. Yeah.
So day two begins, and my first match up is a girl I fought a couple times before. Um, I became aware early in the day, like once I got to the tournament, that I did not feel the same oomph that I felt the day before. And that made me sad. I was like, why? Why couldn't I feel that incredible, indestructible ability today too, right off the bat? Jeez. So that was a little disheartening at first, and I was just kind of like, oh well, whatever. I still feel good. I still feel good enough. Like, all right, let's go fight. So I went out and fought, and I played this match a little bit different than I usually do. I was kind of experimenting with some tactics that one of my that Drysdale had talked to me about for the high divisions. So in this match, I wasn't rushing the fight at all. I mean, of course, I wanted to get a takedown, get in a good position, which I didn't take down. She pulled guard. But I ended up passing, got in a good position. We kind of got stuck a little bit for a second there, and I went for, when she trapped my foot, we were in quarter mount, and I went for this samurai roll, and she spun and got on top, and I just timed that. Not the greatest. So then we're just working on the bottom for a second, and I attack an armbar, and I won the match on points, but I just remember feeling like I was waking up, but I was also riding out this tactic that Drysdale was talking to me about how if you have a good position, and they're behind, you don't have to work as hard as they need to work to win now. So you can be really smart about how long you stay there and about what submissions you allow yourself to attack, because you don't want to jeopardize your win. So I felt safe in that match, and I played with that a little bit, and it helped that it was the first match of the day, so I could kind of warm up with that. And I was still able to win. And I actually wasn't a big fan of not submitting and not just going for the kill. But, that's a tactic. You gotta be, just know how to do it, I guess. So that match was fine. Warmed up after that.
So I understand now more the perspective of, yeah, why couldn't I get one more match on Saturday sort of perspective? Because you're like, I was feeling great then. I would love to have, 3. I'll give you 3 matches on Saturday. From a different perspective of, you start going, you go, all right, go gadget mentality on Sunday. And you go, all right, well, we're going to make this work. So you're right. Yeah, it becomes a strategy to kind of get the win that you need to. I will tell you this from a fan perspective. Obviously, we love to see submissions too, but I never fault any of the athletes for doing what they need to do to win. Like, your job when you go out there, obviously it's great if you can be entertaining, but you need to do strategy that will help you win. So no complaints on this side, but here's the good news. You do that. That is maybe not your particular favorite match, but then you get right back to your submission ways. Would you say that maybe fueled you to come back even more with a vengeance in that next match?
In a way, yes, because I felt, I considered that match, and I know I executed the tactic I needed to, and I executed it well. Well enough, at least. I made some mistakes, but I was not satisfied with it. But I also, I was not completely warmed up, like mentally, for it. So after that fight, I did have a moment where I tried to go in the other room and I tried to warm up more, and I wasn't in the same mode as I was in the day before. I was like, I've been here a little bit. I was focused, but you know what? I think in between the 2 days, I think I relaxed a little bit too much at the hotel. And that's something I learned from this tournament, is that, hey, we still are on to day 2. You don't relax just because today's is over. You keep your focus. And so I was a little too lax. I was a little too lax. So I had to make up time. I had to go in the other room, and I had to destroy everything that was in my mind, put everything out. And I had to slowly build up my mentality and create the good thoughts, create the focus, and create the perspective necessary for me to continue with each match after that. Because all of the matches that were going to happen after that were going to be to people who I'd lost to before. And I haven't lost to very many people, but they were all going to be in a row. So I really needed, the pressure was on, not only for the tournament, but for redemption. And to be able to perform at my greatest capacity, I needed to be ready. So that's what I did. I destroyed my mind, and I built it back up and got ready to go.
It worked. So that's the good news on that, because you were able to overcome the potential of being, I guess, discouraged or overthinking it, or seeing these opponents who had wins over you, and you understood it would be difficult, but that if you could get yourself to your best place mentally, not only did you have a shot, but you could put it more in your favor. So I think that's a very amicable thing and very cool to hear that was something that you were able to pull off. What do you remember about that match? Because here you do get back to a submission, but you had started with a couple points, which I'm sure helps to get you in that mode of scoring that submission.
So my next match was with Maggie, Margaret Maggie Grandetti. Is that how you say her name? Yeah, she used to previously be a teammate back when we were both blue belts. She used to be training under the same affiliation. So we had trained a little bit together, and then we had fought together at one of the Pan Ams, and she had just barely won. I was in the middle of submission as time was running out. That was my fault on my tactic. And she won. So today was the day I got to finally have a rematch because she was always a belt level higher than I was after that day. So I'd seen her fight before, and I totally knew I had it in me. Totally knew it. But I know actually that Maggie she's a very tactical fighter. So I wasn't going to just try to bull rush my way into anything. I was still going to be smart, as you have to. You know, these are higher level divisions. You can't just be careless about things. You can't be reckless. So I entered the match, and I felt a little bit of takedowns, like a little bit of control. I just felt it out a little bit, saw how it would go. And I knew there was no rush because there's no points. You know, you don't want to, for the first couple minutes at least, you don't want to make a mistake and end up in a bad position. And, you know, then the match gets rode out, you're in a bad position. So I didn't rush anything eventually. And she didn't either. I know she plays like that, so I felt like I wasn't in any danger. So eventually I tried to go for an inside trip or an ochigari. I tried to switch it to a knee tap, and she tried to jump on my arm for an arm bar. And I pulled my arm out. I gave her a little too much space because she tried to come up, and I tried to push her over. I didn't quite get in enough control, but she tried to spin around and pull my head down. And I should have just pulled my hat and went to her back, but I don't know why I didn't, but I was under her just enough. I was like, hey, look, I can uchimata. So I threw my hip in there and changed the angle, and I uchimated her, and we ended up on the ground. And from there, I couldn't quite pass her half guard as my foot was stuck, but I kept this half guard almost side control position, and I put a lot of pressure on her. I could feel that she was just like, crap. She was just stuck. Like, I was putting pressure. She's tired. I'm on top of her. Like, you're stuck. And her arm was sitting in front of me for quite a while, and I was just like, you know what? I'm going to jump on this. And so I jumped on the Americana, and her elbow was just like, it bent and it bent and it bent, and eventually it sounded like styrofoam was ripping, just rip, rip, rip. And then she tapped. I was like, yo, why didn't you tap? And she's like, oh, I didn't even think about it until I felt the pain. And then I screamed, and then I tapped. And I was like, dude, you gotta tap. Now your elbow's all ripped up.
Oh, man.
Such is life.
It's hard to tell someone that, and I think it's not that crazy. Oh man, this is ADCC. I'm gonna go out like this. I think she was probably just like, oh, I didn't recognize that was the time I should have.
Yeah.
All right.
I think she was overwhelmed. I was putting pressure. She's losing. I'm sure her mind was kind of scrambling with what to do. And then, you know, nobody wants to tap, and it just ended up going too far.
Right. But again, credit to you, because that's overcoming a loss. That's overcoming something that could have stifled you a little bit. So that's got to make you feel pretty good. And now you know you're going to those semifinals, which means it's in grasp. So you do a good job, from what it seems like, of keeping things in perspective and making sure to be very disciplined with your mental game. But what are you now thinking as you go into that semifinal match?
Elizabeth was the match I anticipated to be the most tedious, just because her guard is hard to pass. We fought before. Not impossible, but hard, but really hard to fight. I thought the match was going to go like this. She was going to defend and attack my legs, and I was going to try to pass, and the match was going to ride out the entire length like that. And I thought the strategy behind it was to put as much pressure as I could and show the ref that I wanted it more, and hopefully the ref would give me the match. Because I didn't see a clear way either one of us were going to dominate either one. And yeah, I just anticipated a good cardio pressured match with her. What was your original question?
Oh, I was asking, about keeping the mentality in there, but you started getting into the actual match detailed analysis, which I'm a fan of. So
Right.
I have no problem with that. Getting into that is great, and getting the win for you, I'm sure, is even better. What do you think was the difference maker? Do you think it's the cardio, or do you think it was strategy, or was there something else that was happening mid round?
I will tell you exactly what I feel like happened. Let me answer your question really quick, though. I didn't expect anything. I noticed, and a little bit more hope grew as I saw, like, okay, I've got another one down. Hey, that means there's only 2 more matches. Whoa, this is getting closer. Like, okay. I still kept focused. I still didn't think, like, you've got it in the bag or anything. I didn't think that. I was just like, nope, you keep focused, you keep trying to fight, you do your best, and that it stays at that. So then I get into the actual match, and I felt noticeably stronger than her. Not necessarily more technical or anything, but I don't know. I felt confident in what I was going to do with her. The first takedown I tried, she fell super far, and I was like, wow, jump on her. And I did the arm drag to single leg, and instead of ending up picking up the single leg, it ended up tripping her, and she fell. And I was like, great, get on top. I mean, there's no points, but I was like, scramble. And of course, her super flexible legs, she goes to recover guard, and I try a different pass, and she recovers guard. I try another pass, she recovers guard. She enters in my legs. I defend. We did a couple different leg battles. Neither one of us were able to score on each other, though. At one point, one of her first leg entries, I didn't feel threatened. I felt like, okay, this is here. These positions are legit positions, but I never felt like I was in real danger. There was potential to be danger if I wasn't smart, but I never felt like I was worried about anything, which was interesting. I didn't think I was necessarily this great leg defender or attacker. I didn't think that at all. I remember in one of her first leg entries, I'm sitting, and she's got my legs tangled up in the honey hole, or however it was, and I felt fine. My ankles were crossed. I knew it was okay. And I remember looking at my legs, and I was like, I think I said out loud, let's see here. And I was like, probably shouldn't have said that out loud, but I started doing some different kind of leg defenses to pull my legs out of there. And like how I talked about being creative when you're aware of what's going on in the fight, how you can kind of improvise. So I used a couple different little improvising tricks in there to take my legs out. One of them, I pulled my own foot to my body, and almost like I was footlocking myself in order to pull my leg away from her. And then another thing I had tried too is I kind of started doing spider guard on the back of her legs in order to push her legs away and separate her locks so that she couldn't lock up my legs anymore. And it was really effective, and it was kind of fun to create something while I was in there. One of the commentators made a comment like that. He said something along the lines of, it's pretty neat that, something along these lines. It's pretty neat that even in this kind of tournament, you're able to be creative and innovative with some of these positions. And it was cool. That part was fun.
Does that mean that you went back and watched these matches? And if so, when did you see that, or did somebody forward you that clip?
So I did go back and watch the matches, and I reviewed them not too long ago too, just to kind of make sure I knew what I thought about things. And then I knew I did the spider guard thing because it just is effective. But then the commentator said that, and I was like, yeah, he gets it. It was cool. Yeah.
That is pretty neat when
so the rest of it,
they pick that up. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no. The rest of the fight with her, at one point, um, I started being a little bit more confident in spinning out of the leg locks, and she would still try to follow me with them. And at the one point, um, she ended up coming up and she was trying to do a single. And I remember when I was in the match, it felt like so slow. It felt like she was like, okay, she's leaning forward. Now she's on her knee. Now she's taking a step up. Just that hyper focused, like time slowed down state was like so real right then. And I just felt her come up and I was like, oh, she's coming forward. I can Uchimata. I can still Uchimata. Okay, I'm going to do it. And I did. And I Uchimated her and she landed and there was no points yet or anything, but I just reacted to that so fast and everything seemed so slow that it was like, is this really happening? But so I did.
Again, pretty
then we
dope.
reached overtime and we started up and I don't know if I anticipated on her pulling guard right off the bat, but she did. So I was like, whatever. And then I just went straight into a knee slice and I got it just right off the bat. And the commentators in the crowd sounded super surprised. And I think I was just a little bit surprised too, but I was glad. So I passed. I hung out there for a little bit. And like Drysdale had talked about, I wasn't going to do anything super rash. I was going to try to have a lot of control, not get too excited, not get too greedy. I believe she ended up recovering guard. And at another later point, I backed up, got out of this leg entanglement, and I jumped and I did this guard pass again. And then I was able to mount her afterwards, and I was able to ride out the mount position. And I think the commentators made it sound like the crowd was losing their mind over that. But I was just like, I don't know. I don't even hear the crowd when I fight. You just need to be focused. So I get this position. I don't try to be greedy. I could have tried to submit a little bit more than I did, but I knew there was 2 minutes left, and danger is still real. You can still lose. You can still get caught with something. So I was like, I'm gonna be smart about this. I'm not gonna juggle my position. There's some submissions that are safe to attack here, and others that could cause me to lose the position. So I'll just attack like Ezekiel. I'll attack her arms in like Americana. I just won't do anything super flashy. I'm going to try to have this control as long as I can. And she tried to throw her leg over and do some funny flexible leg thing. And I was like, no, get out of here. Anyways, while I was attacking one of the submissions, she escaped again. And we just ended up in the same scramble where I'm trying to pass and she's trying to catch my legs. And the match was over.
Oh, it's pretty dope. And I have to say, when I was watching that match in particular, I was watching it, and I know you can't pick up the crowd. I'm a performer, so when I hear the crowd, that's everything to me. So I love that you're in a zone and you're doing your thing. But I can tell you, I think they were excited. Like, I think you were giving them a show. So I think that they were responding to that. So that's a cool thing to know. But also, that's building and building. Now, as you go into this finals, and I know you mentioned a little bit earlier, you were able to switch from that first match on, that you were very, very adamant, like, no, I need to get my mentality back on. These wins, though, have to be helping you in getting that vibe of maybe you don't feel like yesterday, but it's still pretty good, especially going into a final.
Yeah, I do think with each match and with each win, I was starting to see like, oh, the light at the end of the tunnel is really close. The feeling of relief and relaxing and just like, yeah, relief. It's really close. And I would just be very briefly aware of that before I put myself back into a disciplined mindset, because I didn't want to relax prematurely at all. I didn't want to create any preconceived notations or expectations about how the next fight was going to go, and any forlorn or hopes that were unrealistic. I just put myself right back into discipline because that's just where I needed to be. But I started to feel more peace. after the fight with Elizabeth because I was like, all right, I've done a lot already and I still have a chance to do more. And you know what? I'm just going to do more. I remember seeing a couple girls. I'm going to tell you how that fight went, but I remember seeing a couple girls after they fought and they were done. They were like with somebody and they were like laying down with somebody, like somewhere in a corner. And I was just like, man, you guys are lucky. Like, there's a couple times I felt a little nervous and wished I could run somewhere and hide and sleep or go home and sleep. And, you know, you guys are lucky. You go curl up in a corner with someone and you feel safe over there in your corner. And once I thought that, I remember being like, no, I will not do that. I'm going to be strong and I'm going to win this tournament. I will not go curl up in a corner and sleep or cuddle with anyone. I'm going to go do this because that's a strong thing to do. Anyways, my mentality switched going into the finals. And it was incredibly liberating. I came to probably the truest perspective or the most honest perspective about the entire tournament, about who I was as a fighter, and I was freed. I believe that your greatest power is found in authenticity, and I found that right before the finals match. I remember in the back, I'm on the next fight, and I'm warming up, and I'm ready to walk out, and Paige is probably the other girl who would have been the one I would have been the most concerned about fighting. And from the last time I fought her, she looked way bigger, and I was like, great, she's even more athletic than she is last time. But I just felt like I know why I'm here. I know what I'm capable of, and that is the most that I can do, and that is everything that I'm going to do. And I felt every ounce of pressure dissipate. All my stress was gone. There was no fear of anything. And I just felt like I had my focus. I felt like I was completely faithful in everything that would happen in the match. And I totally expected it to go the entire distance and be a rough back and forth match. I did not expect it to be short at all. You could only hope for that. But all of the pressure and the stress and the fear, it all left. And I was just filled with my focus and absolute will. And I think I was happy too. I was excited. I wanted to see what I could do. And that was the coolest thing to feel right before a finals match at the biggest event you've ever been to. So far, putting on your best performance. Still nervous about how the rest is going to go, but that was the coolest thing to find. I feel like I lost myself and then found myself at the tournament. And that was absolutely liberating and an incredible experience to have. And to top it off, walk out there. I didn't walk out there. I ran out there to whatever song was playing. I jumped on the mat very calmly. I felt out the takedowns and just was prepared. And I didn't think anything in the match, and I felt exactly what to do and when to do it and trusted every single instinct I have. And I submitted so quickly and so simply early on in the match. And then it was all over. And
Well, I was about to ask, what did you feel then? Because I want to put this in perspective for people, maybe, I'm sure as they're listening, they might feel this way too, but you do so much work of being disciplined and putting in all this work, the 8-week camp, all of these factors, and then you get the result that you want. What does that feel like in that moment?
I think I felt relieved. Of course, I felt relieved, but I felt shock. I didn't anticipate it to go that way. Like, it was surreal. It was Matrix. Is the world still moving? Like, my body's still moving and I'm still seeing people and people are still talking, but wow. I don't know if time stopped or if it sped up right there. I found this other dimension where I'm seeing everything happening and I'm responding to everyone, but at the same time, my mind and my heart is really still. that's kind of what it felt like. I was relieved, but the world continues.
Well, you're not wrong. When you have moments like that that are huge, time does stop. You do feel like, is this happening for everybody or is it just me? Kind of a thing. And if you've ever had those moments, you almost out of body it, you almost try to relive it, and people describe it to you and maybe see things that you didn't, but you're like, it felt like 10 minutes, but it might have been one. You know, it might feel so incredibly different to people and how they look at it. But for me, here's what's great. Amy, you are the exact reason why we do this show. I hope you understand. Understanding the process, understanding like all of these things that most of us probably can't read off of you. Like we can maybe understand excitement, disappointment when you don't get a submission, or elation when you think things go a certain way. But the mentality shift is so amazing to hear that you, going into that finals, found liberation, found jubilation. Like you're describing it as like, I was excited to go conquer this mountain, and then I did it, and then it just felt shocking, not because of your disbelief, not because of you didn't think you could do it, but because not only did it happen, but it may be in a different way than you thought it was going to be. And as a result, you
Yep.
just kind of take a moment and you go, oh my God.
Yeah, it just happened so quick. It was so crazy. The more I trusted in exactly what I was, I didn't do anything fancy. I didn't do anything super untypical of me. I did something exactly me, super simple, super typical. I was just me. I didn't try to be anything else. And as soon as I trusted the simple me, I won in the fastest fashion. That was crazy.
Again, it's wonderful to hear. And I still like what we're now 2 weeks removed, and you're still sitting there like, yeah, that really did. Okay, that's cool. So
Yeah.
I'm happy for you. I want to make sure we continue saying this. But now you feel it. Now it happens. Can you tell me maybe your favorite reaction, whether it's a text, a moment with somebody, something that happened afterwards? Like, what is one of the more memorable takeaways or persons that kind of came to you that maybe surprised you?
Um, I have two things that come to mind. One is my coach has this big goofy grin on his face, like teeth showing grin, and he's jumping up and down in the back going, "I'm so happy right now." It was the funny. He's this big man and he's like jumping up and down like a toddler excited. He's like, "I'm so happy right now." That was funny. And I enjoyed my team and all that afterwards, but his and like he would look around him and he would look at me and he would just smile and look down, and I just knew that he was really happy and really proud, and that was very satisfying to feel. He's put just as much, if not more, heart and soul into this right alongside me, and I know it just absolutely made his day that we conquered everything before the tournament, and then we got here and we conquered it all together.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I want to backtrack here because this journey is cool to hear the end, but I'm always curious to ask people, where did the jiu-jitsu journey begin? Yours started at a very early age. What are your first memories of jiu-jitsu?
Um, my first memories of jiu-jitsu are my dad brought me in to watch. He was dropping my brother off for training because my brother was into it. My dad let me watch part of the training, and he looks at me, and I was just quiet, just watched everything. And he's like, "So you think you want to do this?" And I just look at him. I just nod my head. I didn't think anything of it. Didn't think he would do anything. But he signs me up for all the classes, buys me all of the gear, and he looks at me and he goes, "Don't tell your mother."
Well, why? Why does it your mom want you
My
doing
mom
this? Like,
My mom was super conservative. She was conservative with money, and then with fighting, she was super conservative. And so I was like, Dad, I'm okay not telling Mom. But then we walk in the front door, and the first thing he says is everything. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, that was short lived.
I mean, to his credit, it would be very difficult to get around being like, where's she? Oh, I don't know. I just dropped her off. I think she's at the mall or something.
Yeah, I think his point was that he just wanted to be the one to talk about it instead of me being like, hey, guess what?
Can I ask why you were drawn to it? Because you're one of those people who, when you get it and it's happening young in your life, you know, you don't always know why you like it. But what are your first memories of saying, like, no, this is for me?
I think I'll start with saying that I love to learn, and that I desperately clung to that opportunity to learn something, to have something to put my mind and my heart and my soul to. As far as like my first experience feeling like, yes, this is me, I'm not quite sure when that was, because once I started training, it was like, well, yeah, what was I before this? It just, all of it was like, it was the first thing I could latch onto and become like that I could add to as a part of my identity. And yeah, jiu-jitsu just became the normal for me. And I loved too that I could take care of myself with it. I love how practical real jiu-jitsu can be for a fight. You know, I was one of the younger siblings and I got pushed around a lot. And that was like, yes, I'm going to be able to not get pushed around by my siblings. One time when I was a yellow belt, I trained a couple months and then I got my yellow belt. And my oldest brother, he's 8 years older than I am. He was like early 20s. I remember I'm sitting on the living room floor and he walks by me and he said something snarky to me and I was like, I just got my yellow belt and I'm all big and bad now. I was like, you can't hold me down anymore. And he looks at me, considers that for a second, and he jumps on me and pins me down in north-south really quick, and I struggle and I can't get out. And I was like, dang, I'm not good enough yet.
Listen, I guarantee you're not the only yellow belt who probably felt like they were the ish at that time. So I'm sure you joined a very exclusive club. The reason why I ask about the family now, in this particular case, is not many people have families who understand the accomplishments that people make in jiu-jitsu, but yours does, because they're the ones who put you into it. So if that's the case, what was their reaction when you told them that you won trials, or were they there?
So part of my family understands it and part of my family doesn't. Me and my older brother, we actually used to have the worst relationship in my family, and after we started training jiu-jitsu together, we had the best relationship. And a lot of my other siblings, they've dabbled at some point or another, but they don't quite understand just what magnitude it plays for us. And sometimes they're not super involved with it, but it's fine. We all have our different little niches and things we fall into. So some of them didn't quite grasp the magnitude of this tournament. In fact, I don't even think most of them watched it. I don't know. I know my dad did, though. My dad and my stepmom, they were like, we watched every single match and we know exactly how everything went. We were screaming at the TV and I was like, yay! And for me, that's good enough. That's fine. I didn't need the parade behind it, but it was cool to see that they cared about it and they were following me.
That's a big amount of congratulations, and I'm so happy that your dad, who kind of was giving you that nudge years ago, could look and be like, well, I guess I was right. I guess she's doing pretty well for herself. And now gets to represent at what is the equivalent of our Olympics. So that's no small feat.
Yeah, I got to give props to my coach too. So a year and a half after I started training, my parents got divorced. My family situation was all screwed up. And my coach kind of took me under his wing and brought me into his family quite a bit. And it was cool to have good people who I found through jiu-jitsu who took me in that way. And they didn't just teach me jiu-jitsu. They opened up a lot of other doors for life and taught me other things. And it was extra satisfying to have them be with me and doing these goals and going to these tournaments with me. All the tournaments I've gone to out of state, they're all with my coach's family. So they've played a tremendous role in shaping me as a person and me as a fighter. So I just needed to give that credit.
Well, that's a very nice gesture. Don't worry, I'm going to give you a second to shout out sponsors and all that stuff in a second because, again, you don't get these opportunities. Other people, when they win the UFC, somebody does one of these things where they stick a microphone in them and they go, I want to shout out the world. So, like, we try to do that here at the very least to pay respect. And it's very important for me, if I were you, to give that back. So I always try to give that opportunity. Last couple questions for you. First and foremost, what can we expect from you now that you're in the big dance at ADCC this September?
You're going to expect exactly what I learned. You're going to expect me. Me and all of me and all that I can be. Yeah. I'm going to try to do my absolute best and try to bring all the skills that I have and all the creative genius moments that I have. I'm going to try to bring them all out.
And next question is, what would a win at ADCC? Interpret it how you like, but what would winning at ADCC mean for you?
I think it would mean a couple things, but also I think there's several things that winning would mean that I couldn't quite fathom yet. Of course, it would mean like an incredible triumph. It's the most prestigious tournament. It would mean that some small local gym in Ogden that's not affiliated with all the top gyms in the world created somebody solely from that gym, solely training at that gym, that competes on a world stage and at a renowned level, seemingly out of the blue. And I think that would shock a lot of people because I feel like a lot of people think you gotta train at a lot of different places, and you gotta train at a handful of the gyms that are the best in the world, and that is your ticket into, I mean, if you have the heart for it, that's your ticket into the big tournaments. And I think I would be an example of the opposite, of a little local gym that had this capability. It would mean the world to my coach. I think it would be a cool experience. I think I don't know what I would be able to anticipate. I know I'd be happy. I know I'd be shocked. I feel like I'd be on a cloud. Like I would think, what is this place? Is this really happening? Am I watching a movie? I don't think I can fully grasp just how it would feel and everything that it would mean until I felt it.
I understand that. And I'll tell you this, I think there's an exciting little avenue for you, which is that from learning your journey today, I've learned that especially at that ADCC Trials that you won, that there was a lot you discovered about yourself there I think you need to go through another discovery. So I think that what's exciting for me is now knowing that the next several months that you prep, you're going to go on a different journey and maybe find something even greater about yourself in that time. So that's an exciting thing to somebody like me, because I love hearing stories and what makes grapplers them. But you are very much now in that journey to the next thing. So enjoy that process. Remember when it is hard that you are now one of like a select small, that 1% of people that get to compete at this. And remember to have the most fun, because that's where you were when you were competing at your best, was you were like, this is fun. Oh my God, I get to go to a final and beast this, and then look at the great things that happen. So I think that will assist a little bit on that game that you already have as a strong mental game. So that's the part of the journey that I'm excited for you to take next.
Cool. Thank you very much for that.
Of course. Now, last and not least, I would love for you to take the opportunity to shout out sponsors, people you want to give thanks to. I know you already thanked the good folks that have been helping you, but you know what? I'm putting the camera just on you. It's your opportunity to shout out whoever and whatever you want. Camera goes to you now.
Okay. Of course, I want to thank my gym, Mori Training Center in Ogden. They've sponsored me and raised me up since the day one, and by saying that, I also mean my coach, Eduardo Mori, has taught me from day one. My teammates who sacrificed just as much of their time to help me train. You know who you are, and I'm very grateful for you. Ernie Chavez, he's also been very helpful and kind and considerate mentor for me, and he's also sponsored me, as well as Wasatch Physical Therapy, his clinic. They have sponsored me and my admissions for this tournament and in previous tournaments. And I know I've got several other teammates that have, everybody's pooled their money to just raise me up so I could go, and I'm really grateful for you guys. And you guys all took so much of your time and your resources to help me and to do this. So thank you.
Well, it was money well spent, it looks like, because they definitely helped to make you into the champion that you are. So congratulations to you. It is well earned. You were a savage that weekend. Couldn't be happier for you. Oh, go ahead.
Of course, the affiliation. Thank you, Zenith. Drysdale is taking care of Eddie and I and our gym for a minute, and he especially took some time to give me some advice about this tournament. And I was really grateful for that, and it was really helpful. It changed my perspective on jiu-jitsu a lot. So I need to give a specific shout out to him as well.
Look at you, making sure you're covering all the bases. You're literally dotting the I's, crossing the T's, leaving no stone unturned here. Amy, I can't tell you how happy I am we got to do this interview. It was a blast watching you compete that weekend, and it's even better getting to talk to you today. So all due congratulations to you. I cannot wait to see what you do this September.
Thank you so much. I look forward to it too.
Awesome. All right, I'll say bye to you off air. I'm just going to do a quick little throw here. Hey, don't go anywhere. We still got a little bit of show left. We'll be right back. And that's it. That's the end of the interview. You're still sticking around. It's like Ferris Bueller. Come on, you can leave. Except I do have one more ask. Maybe two. Okay, here we go. First of all, thank you to Amy. Second of all, thank you to you for sticking around and watching. Third, I'd like to say this. If you're a gamer and you got like the little Twitch thing, our shows tend to also go on that as well, especially when we do Fight Companions and live events. So don't miss out on that. Go give us a follow. I don't think it's a like. I think it's a follow on Twitch. And maybe, who knows, one of these days I'll play a video game. Or maybe get some of our friends to play some video games. I think you might like that one. Anyway, it's been a great day for grappling. Hey, and before I say the last part, if you want to go ahead and follow us and become a subscriber for our premium content, just go down to that link below. We'll send you some information, because if you made it this far, I think it means you kind of like the show. I think it's time we take it to the next level. It's been a great day for grappling. We'll see you back on the mats.
Perfect.